Hello and welcome to the Philippines. This is our destination. We're taking a trip, a walk. Come along on this power walk, exploring Uptown Cebu City to the Escario Street area, where there are a number of little areas with lots of options. This is a little shopping area, number of different restaurants in here. And anyway, our destination was to come up here and have lunch. A couple friends asked me if I wanted to go along, and they called it a power walk, and it was indeed. We clipped along at a pretty good pace and got a good workout, some good exercise, got some fresh air, got some sun, got that vitamin D from the sun. And anyway, this is the Vibo, I believe, little, I don't know, call it strip mall or different parts of the world. You call it different types of things, but number of businesses and restaurants, little restaurants. Uh, anyway, this the beginning of our walk. Had a Cebu City traffic enforcer out there. I believe that's who he was. More and more, in the last couple of years, they've hired more and more. I think several hundred more traffic enforcers, and you'll see them out there at corners. You will see them on the just standing on the street, pulling over. It used to be mostly motorbikes to check if they have registration and or license, any other documents. These days, they can pull over almost anybody, four-wheel vehicles, whatever, and do an inspection on the vehicle, do an inspection on documents. Now, this walk was just a couple days into the new restrictions that have been announced across much of the Philippines. Uh, Restrictions on travel, restrictions on what businesses can be open, restrictions on whether you can eat inside of a restaurant or outside of a restaurant. And in this case, we ate on the outside, which is just fine. A little bit of breeze out there, comfortable. The logistics and implementation of these various restrictions really vary by region and LGU, local government unit. There's another Cebu City traffic enforcer. Um, really depends upon the area and the region. There are areas of the NCR, National Capital Region, the Manila area that encompasses many cities. Some are on tighter, uh, uh, they don't like to use the term lockdown, but they're restricting travel. There are some areas with more restriction on who can be out, when you can be out, and they're trying to restrict travel. What they fear is that many of the people are going to. Now, this is a vet clinic, I believe, veterinary clinic, or it might be a bank. No, it's a bank. People are waiting to get into the bank. Only a certain number of people allowed in at a time. And anyway, implementation. Of course, if you're in an area that is going to have a harder lockdown, more difficult to get out to do your shopping, whatever, you might want to uh, take off and go to the province, visit family in a province that is less restricted. And they're trying to set up checkpoints to limit the ability of people to leave those areas in a part of the Manila area anyway. I have just read that the fast ferries that run between Bacolod City and Iloilo City have shut down basically because of lack of passengers. They just had a couple passengers the other day and just didn't make it, even though they haul a little bit of freight. These are the fast ferries. Now they have slower ferries. I think at least one of those is still running, so that if a passenger needs to take that hour and a half trip, whatever it is, across the sea from Bacolod to Iloilo, vice versa, You need goods transported, the produce trucks, the people transporting the food from one island to another. That's a big part of commerce here. And talking about commerce, there is a disruption, and every time there's a worldwide disruption, many of you know about that. There's a problem with the number of containers, number of ships, where they're located presently, and so there's a big disruption in the supply chains. And same thing here. We have so many islands. Everything comes by boat, truck, and boat, and truck, and takes time to move all that. Very few planes flying these days, so very little of it is going to come by an airplane. And inflation has become more and more of a big thing. And of course, everybody's inflation is different. Depends upon what your lifestyle is, what you buy. I've found that that inflation is relatively high as far as food products, as far as the grocery store, the items that I would tend to buy, which often are imported items. And it's a choice I make. What we found on this walk today is that several of the restaurants that would be open a prior week were closed. The Cafe London, some of you know, on Escario Street, was locked up with a sign saying closed until further notice. And kind of a 1-2 punch. Number one was the alcohol ban. A lot of foreigners would go there to meet and chat and have lunch and a beer, dinner and a beer, something like that. And when the alcohol came into effect, all the bars shut down, and a lot of the customers, because they couldn't have that beer and a conversation, they quit going. And then when with the restrictions, it's like you could only have a certain percent, maybe 20% inside dining and 50% outside, whatever it is, depending upon the city that you're in anyway. There's a number of businesses that just shut down. Permanently, perhaps, I think during this next 2 weeks to a month of economic restrictions, you're going to see, even here, you see more and more stores just look like they're permanently shuttered. And I'm seeing that as I walk different streets here and across on Mactan Island. More and more businesses that look like they're permanently closed down. Much of the business that these restaurants that do remain open, much of their business, now this is a pharmacy. This is a very common sight in the Philippines. Just open face, open to the street, and that was relatively. We're very close to Cebu Doctors Hospital, just within a block or so of it. Chunghwa Hospital, not very far away. Quite a number of hospitals in this area. Getting back to what I was saying about many of the restaurants that do remain open are doing a big percentage of their business delivering, using Grab delivery, a number of different delivery services to deliver the food. So you order online and it gets delivered. We do that on occasion, but it is nice to get out. Number one, it's healthy to get out, get some air, get some exercise, get some sun, get some of that vitamin D from the sun. And mentally, it is good for your mental state as well as your physical state, obviously. During normal times, there would be hundreds of people out here, dozens and hundreds of people out here on the street, walking and commencing with their commerce transaction. Here's a testing laboratory, quite a number of them around the hospital areas. But here you can see almost nobody out on the street, almost no activity whatsoever. Not many cars as well, vehicles. We did not encounter any checkpoints, any problems in this area. Uh, they're not requiring quarantine passes anymore. That used to be a rare thing to be able to get in Cebu City. And they're not checking for quarantine passes. They're checking to see if you have a reason to be out of your house, I guess. If you're in a taxi. Are you approved person out of residence? Or do you have a work? Do you have a work card showing that you're going to work? Um, there was going to be an issue with PNP. Philippine National Police came out and said we're going to be checking if the person driving that person going to work doesn't have the proper authorization to be out of his house. We're going to arrest them or something like that. He kind of walked that back after some pushback. Now there's been a couple things that have happened here in the last week. That's one of the reasons I don't jump on the latest news and put it out there. A number of days ago, the governments came out, different city governments, provincial governments came out with new restrictions. And what happens, that hits the news the first day, starting tomorrow, starting in 3 days, whatever. And what happens is it evolves over the course of several days, and the restrictions change. The politicians get some pushback. Happened. Mayor Chan over on Lapu-Lapu, he had made a statement, made part of his declaration, executive action, whatever they call it, that you had to have a vaccination card to get into a grocery store or a market, something like that. And after a lot of pushback from the residents, he has backed off of that. No longer required. He said, "Well, I'm just trying to reduce the number of people outside of their house." I know a few people over there in Lapu-Lapu that work for the government, and they seem to be a good group of people. So I'm really glad, and I think a lot of the residents are glad that the mayor saw fit to loosen up those restrictions. Helps everybody go on with their life. This is the Capitol, straight ahead there. That building there is the Capitol area. And I read a while back that is the capital of Cebu province, not Cebu City, but Cebu province, pretty much the whole island except Cebu City. And I have read that Governor Garcia wants to move the capital over to Balamban, over on the west side of Cebu Island. Now, I'm not sure if that's going to go forward or not, but Cebu City is a major hub. So there is a Cebu City traffic enforcer. Don't know if he was writing a citation to that motorbike driver or not. But up until the last couple of years, just really in the last 2 years, that I've started seeing more and more. They've hired some hundreds, a couple hundred more traffic enforcers, and they're out here. Now, normally down this street, there is a market. Market stalls out there on the street. I'm pretty sure that's it. And we're coming up on Cafe London right here to the right, all locked up. But anyway, apparently with these restrictions, part of the restrictions were shut down the market. I don't know if that's accurate or not. This was a weekday in the middle of the day, early morning actually, or middle morning, and I would think that market selling vegetables, meats, whatever, I would think that they would be open. There it is, all locked up, closed until further notice. Cafe London.
All right. Wow.
and so several people lost their jobs there.
Yeah.
This is Escario Street we're walking on now, 4-lane highway. If you continue down this way, it takes you pretty close to Ayala Mall, and it's an interesting street. There's a lot of commerce going on, restaurants, a couple hotels along this way, but there are a number of small little restaurants. So sometimes it's nice to get out of the big malls and start investigating what's out. And I remember a number of years ago first walking Escario Street and thinking, wow, there's just a lot of stuff going on here. You could spend a lot of time just going in and out of these little side streets,
Crossover.
finding restaurants, finding service establishments, a number of different things. The big question is for everybody, wherever you are in the world, when is this ever going to end? As I mentioned in one of my last videos, Singapore has decided in the coming month or two that they're going to treat this virus just like influenza, the seasonal influenza, seasonal flu, and just live with it. Do what they can to protect those people who are more susceptible to it, and go on with life. And how long before the rest of the world understands? You know, how many hundreds and hundreds of years have other viruses like the flu virus, influenza virus, they mutate. That's what they do. And they don't. They've never shut the economy down like they have here. And there comes a point where these politicians need to make those tough decisions. And one thing unfortunately, you hear very few people, and they do talk about. They're often censored. About a lot of the science, the medical discussions, the alternatives, the damage being done by the lockdowns, the economic situation, and I'm sure I've been hit a little bit because I bring that up occasionally, but that's life. That's life. I bite my tongue some days. This is one of those little strip malls. Number of businesses.
Escario Central Hotel.
You might have you might have flower shop, a pet store, a couple of restaurants, a clothing store, electronic store. Could be anything or everything in there. And anyway, we're going down here. I believe to the next place. There's a Burger King down here, and then there's similar little strip mall down in that area. There's a hotel as well as some apartments back in there. So you just never know until you start walking an area. I know a number of you have made comments that you've bought flights, paid for flights here to the Philippines later this year, and October, November, December. And that is the January, February with the winter season, the Christmas season, across much of the northern hemisphere, especially. That is the big tourist season here with such great weather. And if they don't, we've been shut down almost 2 years now. If they don't open up for this Christmas season, well, the damage is already extreme, but it will just get worse and worse and worse, and more businesses closing across, not just here, but got a Filipino friend, engineer that works at a factory, and here's this place called Vibo Place. Is this little mall type area. Anyway, she said a lot of businesses, a lot of big factories are closing here in Vietnam. The economy just will not support any longer. And Vietnam makes a lot of furniture, among other things. They ship all over the world. And anyway, she makes a lot more money as an engineer there than what she used to do here. And furniture companies in the Philippines, so that's why she's over there, so she can put her son through school, college. Thailand as well. Many of you have been to Thailand. I've got a couple friends over there right now. They went there a couple months ago, hoping that the Philippines would be opening up and they could jump over here to the Philippines. But now even Thailand is under more extreme lockdowns, restricting travel and such. Anyway, here we are, coffee shops, restaurants, just a nice place to chill out. Viable place. Our selections for lunch. A lot of these restaurants, they've cut back substantially on their menus, and in this case they didn't have a couple things on the menu. I just had a salad, what we ordered and ate, nothing special, just some place to walk to, have a quick lunch, and I had a leafy salad, and that was it. That was enough, and I was about ready to lay down there with that dog, take a little rest, but anyway, we had a quick lunch and headed back, and that'll be another video. Anyway, thanks for coming along. Stay safe, stay healthy, enjoy life as best you can, and we'll see you next time.